Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Sunday podcast. This one will be the recap of season 1 of our Beyond Sunday podcast. So I'm joined with Pastor Sheree. How are you?
Good. And I'm joined with Pastor Devin. How are you?
Great.
On
this one, we are going to recap all of season 1. We've got about maybe 70 episodes, not all from Sunday. Some are the Winter Camp Special Edition and Mexico P&A Connect Edition. So, but in all of season 1, we have desired to do the same thing each time we get on and have this conversation, which is ask the question, what is God still speaking to us from the scriptures from Sunday? What's still stirring within us, and how have we been invited to respond to what we've been hearing? So this one, we're going to sort of think back to what this last year has been, as we've been following the Revised Common Lectionary. This was year C of the Revised Common Lectionary. And so as you think back into this, from this last year, what are the things that stick out? What are the highlights, even just how we came about into this?
Yeah. Well, I was reading, so we did an overview at the start of year C, at the start of this year. This entire year was this journey walking with Jesus, right? Yeah. And so what we said at the start of this year was that life is a journey. We're choosing to follow Jesus. We're stripping away the excess, allowing God to speak identity and fullness of life into us. We're preparing our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits, trusting God to fill, restore, and renew us. We're walking with Jesus, creating habits, rhythms, and structures to help form us to be more like him. Join us on the journey. So that it's one of those things where it feels like a year ago us wrote that out of what our teaching teams had discerned, out of what through prayer and all of that, right? And this is where we landed, like, God, okay, so for this, essentially the 2025 year was like this idea of journeying with Jesus and all of those. And you know that, like, at the start of the year, these, like, this fresh outlook of, like, this is what we're going to do. But I sit here a year later reading that and in a lot of ways thinking, like, yeah, maybe this year didn't always look like what we anticipated when we wrote this. But this is what we got to spend the year doing, is exactly that. Like, here's what it looks like to journey with Jesus. And so this idea of starting with identity and the way that has kind of permeated throughout the entire year as something we can call back to, of, like, actually the before anything else, saying yes to Jesus is a calling out, a confirmation of, God, I am who you say I am. And then everything else flows out of that. And so I guess my big broad view takeaway is, like, hey, it's kind of cool that what God gave us a year ago is what we walked out this year. Yeah,
and in this journey, starting with identity, and then, like, what are we taking with us? Do we know the way? That then in the longest season, which is the ordinary season, that it pretty much spans all of summer and all of fall. It's not called ordinary because it's ordinary in its nature, but ordinary in the ordinary rhythms of life.
Yeah.
In that space, we were talking about walking with Jesus. So all this lead up and preparation to then this long season of 25, 23 weeks, we are calling attention to and noticing the ways that we are invited to walk with Jesus, and the ways that he walks with us and that we walk with him, and that he has prepared the way. And we've talked about that through this year C, that we were like, we're being invited into a journey, right, onto a journey with God, and that long season was this, like, walking with Jesus.
Yeah, and it's cool because I don't know if this has been your experience, but prior to this, we had not done, like, here's the focus for the year. So we'd done sermon series, right? That's typical. And sometimes they're longer or shorter or whatever. This was the first time we'd done a, like, here's what God's given us for this year. And in the context of the year, there are different series where we're starting with identity, and then we're talking about trusting the guide, and then walking with Jesus and whatever. But overall, it's been this, like, what does it look like to journey with Jesus?
Yeah.
The thing that's been cool about that for me is it's given us a common language all year long. to keep coming back to. And so even just literally last night, somebody was like, oh my gosh, have you heard this song? And shared the song, and they're like, this goes with the entire year that we've been talking about. And this is just somebody who shows up on Sundays, and I'm like, yes, it's coming through this idea, because there's this focus of like, God, what's the thing you have for us this year? Somebody hears a song and goes, oh my gosh, this is what we've been talking about for the last 52 Sundays, for the last 52 weeks at church. And so it's given this common, like, this year, this is the thing that we, as a faith community, as a body of believers, this is the thing that we're focusing on this year.
Well, and also too with it not just coming from our church's pastor, right? You and I, but from leadership and teaching team to pray and discern and having read the scriptures beforehand to call out the threads and the themes that just seem to weave themselves through the scriptures that we're reading in the Revised Common Lectionary, that then we get to come into a room and call it out, and somebody else gets to share their reflection and like, oh, here's this, that seems to match this piece that I was reading in this season of time in these scriptures, and that when we do that and go through the whole year, which is how we landed on Journey for this last year, but how we landed on a Jesus-shaped church for this coming year was this really cool way of inviting our church family to read the scripture, listen to and discern and perceive where God may be leading them and collectively our church, because we're part of this church. That then we get to share that out in the room, which has been a really cool thing. That now as we think back into this last year of Journey, just like she called out, or like, this is what we've been walking through, learning about, understanding, recognizing we have been invited on this journey with God.
Yeah, and I think there's something in that again, just the overall idea, what it does is it gives room for the Spirit to speak into specifically for our church. And so this is something we talk about a lot, right? How maybe in the big C church culture, there's a tendency for us to expect the pastor to be the one who like hears from God and tells the people what he's saying, right? And I know for both of us and for the leaders around us, there's this deep conviction of like, God actually wants to speak to all of us. And doing something like this, it feels like the way that this has unfolded, I guess I'll say it that way, because none of this was our like idea. This is just along the way. God was like, here's what I have for you. But in that, what it's allowed is this like, in the way that we're behaving in practice is we expect you to speak, God. And so because of that, it's not, there's a buy-in from the people around us of like, other churches in this, we'll say in the country, other churches in the country are using the RCL on a Sunday, and they may not have done the journey. They may be doing whatever God gave them to do. But because we believe God speaks to us, and because he spoke through not only us, but he gets to speak into our teaching teams, and now for this coming year into our whole entire congregations, in doing it that way, it's like what we're saying is we understand that these scriptures could mean or say a lot of things. God, we want to know what you are telling us for us.
It is very cool that then what we get to walk out, to live out, goes with this being on this journey with God, that he's there with us, right? We're in Advent now, and we're talking about Emmanuel, God with us. And in this, I can see. I can see in the ways that God is with us, in the ways that the Holy Spirit is inspiring us and leading us collectively, not just pastors of a church, but C3, Next Step. God is speaking to our people, and we've now got space and a structure or a way in which to share and respond. Here's what I'm hearing from God in these scriptures that I've been reading, that are maybe for our church.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, so let's share, as we wrap this up, let's share a highlight. You have a highlight of this last year of year C on the journey, or the journey from this last year of 2025.
You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay, good.
One of the highlights for me is when we get to share the platform and others speak the word and bring the message. And I love the conversations that take place. in the Beyond Sunday podcast from those moments. So then we invite them to share, what God's still stirring in them on this podcast platform, and then it feels like we're extending the circle, that others get invited into the room to share what it is that God's still speaking, share what has stirred in their hearts, and maybe still continues to do so in ways that it's like, oh yeah, that was a big piece for me, and then another person either is saying, yeah, it was this way, it was this direction that God caught my attention, or it's a really cool way when it matches up, and preparations are done separately,
right?
But how when it does come together, it seems to really mesh in a way. It's like, oh, God was speaking the same thing.
Yeah, He told you that too,
and led you in this direction. Both are really cool. One speaks to just how deep and broad the scriptures can be, right? And in the other, it speaks to how unifying scriptures can be, even though preparations are done separately.
Yeah. Maybe similarly, two things come to mind, specifically around the podcast. Maybe, like you said, I love it when we get to share the platform, and then because of this, the podcast is cool because it's allowed us to not just have somebody else give the message on a Sunday, but create a space so other people get to have this conversation with us. We've talked about this a little bit, but it has been cool. There have been a number of times this last year that the same people have shared, right? So you've had Josh share and I've had Max share on the same Sunday. And that's happened a few times now, to where the last time that happened on the podcast, I found us sitting back like, we're just going to listen. And it's cool because in that space, not only are the two paid pastors on the call not actually even having to say anything, I'm learning, I'm leaning in what else do you guys have? But it's cool relationally because here's two men who, don't live in the same community, and they don't worship in the same faith communities at the same church or whatever. But there's this unifying piece of yes, I brought the word, you brought the word. And so that has been super cool. And I think the other highlight that sticks out for me just in the podcast in general, and we've never talked about this, so I don't know if you feel this too, but I've recognized now a year into recording these that there's a moment at the beginning of each podcast. So we start and we're talking to the people, to our listeners. And then as soon as we get into the conversation, I am not remembering people are listening. We are just having a conversation. Yeah. And then at the end, when you usually say, so as we wrap this up, I'm like, oh, right, we're doing a podcast. Yeah. But that happens almost every time. Mm-hmm. And I, to the point where recording these doesn't feel like, hey, we have to record and put this out for the people. I'm like, oh yeah, we get to talk about what God's been saying. Yeah. Other people might listen, they might not, I don't know. Yeah. But we get to talk about that. And I find that every time, whereas I forget that we're talking, recording this. That
reminds me in the way that we are utilizing this Beyond Sunday podcast platform to have this conversation. And then sometimes we forget that there's people who are recording this. Right. Oh yeah, right. This is going out. That in some of our conversations, we've called out the ways in which God is stirring our hearts and souls, and how the discussion is going, and the wrestling of hearing from God. It's I think God's just pulling up a chair and hey, I'm here with you. I'm here with you. I'm listening to your wrestle. I'm actually giving you insight and inspiring you in things, and to be able to articulate in ways you didn't know you needed before you had this conversation. And I think in that way that's a part of this. In some of these ways that conversations we've had, it's I think God just pulled up a chair.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, God.
We came into the temple. We're hey, we're here to we're here to converse with you. I don't know, maybe we're back in the garden. We're just to be with you, God. And in some of the ways that the conversation takes shape, and how God seems to be stirring my soul, that's the kind of piece that then in this way, it's no, there's others.
Right.
We're a part of that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
So good.
Well, guys, thanks for listening in. And yeah, we didn't forget, they're here.
Yeah, I mean, we might have for a minute, but we're here still. Thanks. Yeah.
So thanks for listening in and for being with us on this journey through season 1. And we anticipate and look forward to season 2 as we follow the Revised Common Lectionary Year A into 2026 and learning what it is to be a Jesus-shaped church, walking out faithfully, obediently as a Jesus-shaped church.
Yeah.
So we look forward to that road. Take care, guys.